If you've been keeping up with this latest arc in Void Rivals, then you know just how many different plot lines the series is juggling. If you haven't been keeping up, well, it's a lot. But we start to see some of these threads come together in Void Rivals 15, so it's possible we're looking at some consolidation story-wise. We knew it was coming, but Pythona and the Royal Guard cross paths with Skuxoid in this issue, with the former's organic ship being captured by Skuxoid's Rockoroid. There's no interaction between them just yet. We basically only get a tease for what I'm assuming will be a much more eventful meeting next issue, or at least that's what the preview has led me to believe. Regardless, the wheels are in motion. And while it technically began last issue, Hot Rod is officially folded into Derak's storyline with Agoria and Springer. This ends up being one of the bigger developments in issue 15, mostly because they went about it in a way that I wasn't expecting. Last time I mentioned how Hot Rod's color scheme would allow him to blend in perfectly in alt mode if the creators wanted to play up the whole robots in disguise angle, but nope, he's just like, hey, what's going on? Here I am, I'm a giant robot. But it could be for the best. Void Rivals is already a slow burn as it is. I don't know if we needed to keep the Cybertronians that much of a secret 15 issues in. Regardless, it's clear that Kirkman has other intentions as far as the plot and story goes, and it seems like having Hot Rod in disguise would just not make sense for it. There are a lot of great moments that we get during this Agoria section. Derak reveals that he kept the existence of Springer a secret from his father, and Doolin just shoots him this look. It's a small thing, but continues to feed into the compelling dynamic between Derak and Doolin, and it ends up just being a nice-looking, expressive panel. I wouldn't be surprised if things take a turn and Doolin cuts this Autobot-Agorian alliance short, but I guess we'll soon find out. Regardless, there are a few intriguing and tantalizing tidbits that come out of Springer's interactions with Hot Rod in this issue. First, Springer floats the idea of opening up a trade route between Agoria and Cybertron, something that could be huge. Refining Energon and sending it back to Cybertron could drastically change the situation on the Transformers' homeworld. Hot Rod touches on how dire the situation has become, but we've also already seen it firsthand in the pages of the Transformers series, with the most recent and perhaps the most gruesome example being a group of Autobots scavenging Energon from Ramjet after Blue Streak's stealth killed him. So yeah, boosting the Energon supply could really alter the course of the war. Of course, that might not necessarily be a good thing. Elita 1 was fully ready to sacrifice Earth for Energon, so there's no guarantee a trade deal might not turn sour, shifting into something more like conquest. To say nothing of the Decepticons, I feel like Springer is dropping some foreshadowing when he says they can't let the Decepticons find the Sacred Ring. I know a lot of you have commented that there's already too many players in this book for new ones to be added, and I totally get where you're coming from with that, but I think between some of these plot threads being consolidated and the general shape of the story most likely going to be changing as time goes on, I think we can squeeze in some Decepticons without breaking the whole thing. The thing is, that's likely going to be a ways off, if it's going to happen at all. Springer makes it seem like the trade route idea is a distant goal to work towards, not something that'll just be ready overnight. And that's assuming that those good intentions are even going to pan out. Like I said earlier, with Doolin, I wouldn't be surprised if something happens to disrupt all of that, perhaps even tabling the trade route idea indefinitely, but I could be wrong. The citizens of the Sacred Ring, Zertonia especially, are in need of resources, so you would think that this would be the ideal fix for all involved. But it could never be that easy, now could it? There's also an exchange between Alander and Derak that I liked quite a bit. If you remember way back in the first arc, there was mention of a resistance group that was the Agorian equivalent of the Unifiers from Zertonia. Here we get a bit of a twist, with Alander pretty much being revealed to be a part of that group. It's not stated explicitly, but heavily implied. This would be a satisfying turn for a number of reasons, not least of which is that it would further streamline the dangling plot threads. Rather than have this be another element of the plot to potentially waylay our characters from the more immediate plot concerns, putting a Unifier agent directly in Derak and Doolin's proximity allows the creative team to simultaneously move multiple threads forward. This is also something of a mysterious page, and I could be reading too much into it, but it seems to be suggesting that something's going to be going on with this new Handroid. Maybe it's going to be a snitch or something? Intentional or otherwise, maybe it's just implying that they function as surveillance devices. Who knows? But the way the androids are framed in the last panel of this page is drawing attention to something. The biggest event in Void Rivals 15 is Celila venturing deeper into the Sacred Ring, ultimately using the key that Mistress Vil gave her to power up a very familiar-looking supercomputer. This whole thing was kind of spoiled, as the subtitle for the third volume, The Key to Vector Theta, was revealed well before this issue dropped. I think I saw it online before issue 14 came out, but maybe it was out there even earlier than that. Nevertheless, this is solid confirmation of what that subtitle implied, which is that Vector Theta is, as the name suggests, another Cybertronian supercomputer, like Vector Sigma. It even spits out the proclamation, "I am Vector Theta, before the Sacred Ring was, I was," as well as the prompt, "Who reactivates me?" which is a direct callback to what Vector Sigma says when we see it for the first time in the G1 cartoon episode, The Key to Vector Sigma. Just, obviously identifying itself as Vector Sigma and naming Cybertron instead of the Sacred Ring. Essentially the same thing, though. Like the addition of Zerta Trion, Vector Theta is, in my opinion, a smart addition to the world Kirkman and Felici are building, expanding on these pre-existing ideas from the G1 series, ultimately creating something that is a mix of the old and the new. We're slowly unraveling the mysteries of the world of Void Rivals, with Zerta Trion in many ways being the in-universe architect of it all. Gradually, we've been filling in some blanks in terms of the what and the how, and we've got some vague ideas as to the why, but there are still a lot of lingering questions. But I think this was a particularly satisfying reveal, explaining most likely how the Sacred Ring and its inhabitants came to be, as well as establishing further connective tissue between the citizens of the Sacred Ring and Cybertron. I've been saying this for a while now, but we're essentially getting 2 Transformers titles being released monthly, and I think it's just becoming clearer and clearer with each issue of Void Rivals that's released. But I don't know, maybe I'm alone in that sentiment. You'll all have to let me know. Besides story highlights, there were also a few standout moments in terms of the art in issue 15. Obviously, the page with Vector Theta is amazing and all, but the big ones for me are the smaller moments. Specifically, the cobra-la section where we see Dracula and Acronis without their Royal Guard helmets on. I know cobra-la is not fondly looked upon by a good number of G.I. Joe fans, to say the least, but these colorful designs and the nature of their technology are a great fit for a space opera like Void Rivals. And I love that these normally faceless, nameless grunts are getting both names and faces, becoming characters in their own right. Plus, it's just a matter of how far they take it. It would have been easy to just make them generic-looking blue people under the masks, but Felici went to the effort to give them distinct features as well. Dracula has one of those blobby-looking eye patch things that Globulus has, as well as a stylish haircut, which I guess is maybe known as baby bangs? Maybe? I don't know. I had to ask my wife because I had no idea, but that was her guess. Anyway, I think she looks cool, and so does Acronis, who admittedly is much more straightforwardly designed, but still has these cool markings or scars on his face. Plus, the steely-eyed expression conveys a lot of character purely through visuals. The creative team did not need to go so hard on the Royal Guard by giving them this much individual attention, but I'm glad they did. Another visual highlight was Proximus reassembling himself. Felici has always given us some really memorable imagery where Proximus is concerned, and this is no exception. I especially love the way these tools or little machine arms are drawn. I don't have a lot to say about it, just really nice figure work combined with some nice sci-fi touches. It's just good stuff. In any case, that's all I've got for issue 15. I'm continuing to enjoy Void Rivals quite a bit, and I can't wait to see what's next. I hesitate to say that things are really heating up because it is Void Rivals, but we're getting some very interesting things happening now. How are you feeling about the direction the series is headed in and the reveal of Vector Theta? Like, share, subscribe, leave me a comment, all of the usual stuff. Thank you for watching this. It's very much appreciated. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.